Hello. Welcome, everyone. So happy to have you join us here today for Mid-Level Isn't a Stepping Stone. We'll be talking about how NAMI turned their mid-level program into a growth engine. And I just want to give everyone a few minutes to join. We have a few housekeeping slides to go through. But if you have a chance and want to get familiar with the Zoom controls here, we'd love if you could give a shout out to your organization in the chat. Let us know where you're calling in from. And today's webinar is being recorded. We will share the recording in a follow-up email just after today's presentation. If you have any questions as Ryan, David, and Summer are presenting today, feel free to add those to the chat or the Q&A function. We'll address questions as they come in and be sure to save some time at the end to make sure we answer everyone's questions. Just taking a look at the chat here, we've got Holy Apostle Soup Kitchen out of New York City. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. WDET out of Detroit. Project Recover in Oregon. Thank you. Great to have you here today. Got Rhode Island Community Food Bank too. Love to see people from all over. Thank you all for joining us.
Woo! University of Illinois, Chicago. Woo!
In the house. Just a little bit about AGP's expertise here. We love helping nonprofits turn missions into movements and supporters into passionate champions. And we have expertise across the following areas, everything from paid media and advertising, brand building and creative, web app and AI development. And obviously, we specialize in mid-level and major gifts. We are also very proud to partner with leading organizations across the following sectors: hospitals, public media, health and human services, food banks, education, and more. And we are thrilled to be joined by today's presenters. Ryan Carpenter is AGP's VP of Donor Engagement. David Sacchetti is our AVP of Client Strategy. And Summer, the leader of Individual Giving Strategic Alliances and Development at NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness. Ryan, do you care to share a little bit about your expertise?
Sure. Thanks, Megan. I'm Ryan Carpenter. As Megan said, I lead our donor engagement solutions for AGP. We manage high touch, high value donor programs, namely mid-level programs. And so I'm really glad to be here today and talk about my little part in this great story that Summer and David were working on.
Hi, everybody. David Sacchetti here. I have over 20 plus years of experience in the nonprofit sector, primarily working with large national nonprofits on their direct response programs, including mid-level. And I'm excited to be with you today and share with you our great work that we've been doing with the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And I'll turn it over to Summer.
Great. Thanks so much, David. I appreciate it. My name is Summer Parrish. I'm the National Director of Individual Giving within NAMI, and I'm really excited to be with you all and share kind of our journey in mid-level giving. I've been working in philanthropy and nonprofits for just over 20 years, almost 25 years, I guess, and have focused mostly on health and human services organizations. So really excited to talk fundraising and nonprofit stuff with all of y'all and share kind of what we've been able to do with our mid-level program with the help of AGP. So thanks so much.
All right, guys. So we have a little agenda here just to kind of set the stage about what we're going to talk about. We're going to begin with the situation. Why did we get started? What were they looking to do? Then really dig into the work. It's really omni-channel, personalized. I'm really looking forward to talking about that. And then get into the results. Why did we do all this work? Was it worthwhile? It was. So we're glad to show that.
Spoiler alert.
And then we want to talk about key takeaways. We always love to leave a webinar. We want people to leave, saying, well, if I want to do some of this work, what is it I could actually do? So we're going to talk about that. And then feel free to ask your questions throughout the webinar. We'll try to get through some during, but for the most part, we'll answer some questions at the end. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to you, David and Summer.
Yeah, so I can kick us off, and Summer, feel free to chime in throughout. But we began working on building our partnership with NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, about 2.5 years ago. And we originally really focused on our work at the general level in building out a strong and robust direct response program, both mail and digital for donors, at the $1,000 level or lower. And what we observed as we were doing that work and building out our partnership and the program is that NAMI did have a leadership alliance, and Summer can chat a little bit more with you guys about what that was and the history of that. But that was essentially their mid-level efforts, and they had some direct mail that was going to Leadership Alliance donors. Some were devoted independent mailings, some were partly intertwined with the general level appeals. But there was not a real cohesive strategy around multi-channel engagement with those donors, and also feeding into that program and trying to get donors to upgrade into the Leadership Alliance or upgrade within the Leadership Alliance to higher levels of giving. And so we saw that as a fundamental area for the program that we really wanted to kind of focus on. Summer, anything you would add to that?
I think the only thing I would add is that when I came on, the Leadership Alliance, starting at even $500, was seen as our quote major gifts program, and that was the entry point into it. And I know that happens for a lot of organizations, even universities and things. So through conversation with David and even with my team, we really wanted to expand our major gifts program. We were looking to grow our direct response, like David said. And so this kind of left, I'll lovingly call it the messy middle, right? This amazing group of donors who were in between, but still giving a large sum of money individually and also collectively to the organization. So yeah, this we really needed to look strategically at this group of what we're now calling mid-level
Yeah,
donors.
and I would just echo what Summer said, that this is something that is not unusual. We see that with a lot of programs. There's a tendency to focus on the lower level base of the pyramid with the general level, and it requires a lot of time and investment to get a mass marketing program up and running. And then of course at the major level, it's so important to develop those relationships with those donors and ensure that they're stewarded appropriately and continue to give. And so a lot of times the mid-level is the afterthought. And that's such a critical and important piece of this ladder. And we really focused on trying to strengthen that from a conceptual perspective, which you guys will see on the upcoming slides, all the way through to tactical, and really try to create a much more curated experience for this group of donors and for those that we were inviting to come into the new Leadership Alliance.
Yeah, and if I could just add, to put some numbers behind it, because what you both said is very common, right? You focus on your annual fund with the direct response, and then you focus on major. Mid-level typically consists of about 5% of your direct response population, but it's contributing up to 50% of the revenue, right? So it's a small group of people giving a big part of that direct response, which, in order to forecast and meet budgets, that group is important. And if we're not doing what we're going to share in this story, you're going to often see a plateau because these donors are telling us that they want to be more involved with the organization through their growing support. And without these elevated strategies that we're going to get into, you can see significant drop off or churn.
Great. So, how we wanted to approach, this work was very methodical. And, the outcome or, goalpost for this work was obviously to grow and strengthen the mid-level program for NAMI. And really ensure that it is healthy and vital and a pipeline up into major gifts, but also, leading to strong and consistent giving at mid-level. And so, that really led to this double-digit growth in mid-level revenue and really us starting to think of mid-level not as one behemoth, but instead of thinking about strategies for like that $1,000 to $5,000 level, and then the $5,000 to $10,000 level, and really offsetting, the work that we were doing and integrating it to everything that we were already planning and implementing, both through the general level direct response annual fund program, but through the efforts that NAMI was doing at the major level as well. And so leveraging, kind of taking advantage of what opportunities we had within the program to strengthen, while also implementing some new strategies and new tactics to get us to where we wanted to go. Summer, anything you would add there?
I think that is very true. You said it all.
Yeah. All right, next slide. So let's get into it. So the first kind of step that we took with really looking at this program was thinking holistically about how we could breathe new life into the program. And so the Leadership Alliance kind of felt a little stagnant. It was, it had its own mark or logo, if you will. And we really wanted to revitalize it. We wanted to really rebrand it to better align with NAMI's culture and mission and sort of the community aspect that we were leveraging, which is so prevalent throughout the NAMI network since it's such a grassroots level organization. And seeing success with some of the campaigns that we were doing to build community at the general level with some digital engagement and participation. We wanted to really think through what would resonate, right? What would be attractive for people to want to be able to join a mid-level group, and what kind of benefits and what would they get out of being a transformative donor like that to NAMI. And so the foundation of our work was coming up with a new name and a new mark for mid-level, which we'll show you in a moment. And then really looking through and thinking through what are the benefits for these donors. What kind of experience are they going to have? Getting newsletters and the Advocate magazine, invitations to signature events, a welcome kit, personalized engagement from NAMI, other opportunities for stewardship and engagement with them, to really make them feel that they're a vital and integral part of the mission and the work of NAMI, and really holding that up to make sure that they felt valued and appreciated, and how vital and important they are to NAMI. And anything you'd add, Summer?
Um, in this shift from Leadership Alliance to the new look and the new feel, if you will, one thing that was really important to me and to my team was making sure that it was NAMI, right? Like it felt like our organization, that it felt um, true to us as who we are. So I'm not sure where each of you are in your mid-level journey, if you're looking to start a giving society, if you want to like revive one, kind of like we needed to. But the Leadership Alliance, and you'll see when we show you the look, it felt very businessy to us. And we wanted to, as David said, really imbue it with community. We think that is kind of who NAMI is and where we are. So um, I just encourage you all to think about the not to think about the feeling, if you will, of what your donors want, or what you feel like you want your donors to get out of the the networking, the community, and it um, out of a giving society. But for us, it was really about building community, and that was important. So,
Yeah. And we can go to the next slide, Megan. This is the what the old Leadership Alliance sort of mark looked like, and how it was typically shared with the individuals. And one of the things that we did, which Summer can attest to, that I think was really a critical piece of this, and was we shared sort of multiple options with the team at NAMI. And we first shared words only, right? Like names and a description. And we socialized that with NAMI, and, they kind of landed on a couple that we wanted to explore further, and then we layered on design after that with multiple iterations that NAMI then got a chance to kind of socialize. And Summer, you I think socialize that throughout the organization with your senior leadership and everything, just to make sure that you had buy-in right before.
we did, yeah, all the way up to our CEO. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we all landed on, drum roll, the Compassion Collective. And so you'll see that, it's got a little bit more of a modern take on it, but there's a lot that we're conveying with the words and with the visual here, to cue up to these individuals that, they're part of something special and meaningful, and something that they can feel proud of being a part of. Let's go to the next slide.
Let's
yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
Let's talk a little bit about the second leg of the strategy that we took here. And beginning with the shift, like how we thought about this program, we wanted to be really intentional with our engagement. This is not a pass-through segment, as we said at the top. We wanted to actively manage that life cycle and, engage with them in a more personal and personalized way. And so, what does that mean? What changed? Well, we wanted to treat them more like partners with a voice, and we wanted to provide access, like greater visibility into leadership decisions. From the campaigns and the communications we were sending out and continue to, we were looking at life cycle performance. What were their interests, right? So everybody wasn't getting the same thing, based on what we understood, from engaging with you and hearing from you, like what were your interests. And then finally, the stewardship. We wanted to be far more personal, and we'll get to like those personal strategies, but with the stewardship, and that allowed us again to better understand who these people were that are in this now new Compassion Collective. And ultimately, what that's led to is consistent revenue growth, which we'll put the numbers out there momentarily. And really, it's created greater predictability, for that consistent growth and upgrade. And as I'd said a few slides ago, a small percentage of your direct response population is your mid-level, and they contribute a large, up to half of your annual fund revenue year over year. And so gaining that predictability is going to help, for forecasting and making sure you're meeting and exceeding goals and recognizing what you can do for, stretching the goals for the following year. And ultimately, this is something I really feel strongly about because mid-level can get overlooked, but a consistent program. This isn't something you want to dip your toe in or do sporadically. Consistency is key. So at whatever level you can take some of these, more elevated and nuanced touch points into your own practice, make sure it's something you can manage on a consistent basis, because we don't want that experience for our donors to feel disjointed. And so, kind of the third step is, let's talk a little bit about what this actual engagement was. So we have personal outreach, one starting with one, and then another person added on Summer's team. We created, prioritized segmentation within mid-level for one-to-one cultivation and stewardship. That's picking up the phone, having conversations, which even today, that is the best way to build a relationship with your donors that aren't major donors, but also email, handwritten notes. We're also doing things more timing based. So certainly from a stewardship perspective, reaching out within a week or so of somebody making a gift. But another nice tactic out there is prelapsing. So those donors that haven't made a gift in 11 to 12 months, reaching out to them just to, steward and cultivate, get to know them. That I've seen for like the 15 years I've been doing this, it's going to increase retention because, as we know, every day after 12 months, it gets harder to, regain that donor support. And we did upgrade invitations to those modeling as likely candidates. That's just the personal side. From the personalized side, as we've been talking about, and David's going to kind of share some examples, we introduced and welcomed that new brand. I love thinking about community, these mid-level programs. It is about community, letting people know you're part of an important community and that there's others like you, knowing that your support helps us accomplish our mission and grow our mission. I think it's important for them to hear. And it was really multi-channel, omni-channel, approach, beyond direct response. We also did voice broadcasting because we can't reach, well, we're going to get into the counts in a minute about the population of mid-level donors, but it's hard to get in touch with everybody personally. So voice broadcasting was helping us to reach those that we weren't able to personally reach out to. And then we did segmentation based on donor interests and affinities. One example being a Veterans Day outreach to those with interests in vet-related causes. Now, here's the rub, with personal engagement. There's a lot of mid-level donors. I mean, it's in this case with Summer and her team, 2,500 about. When we look at mid-level as who is giving at the mid-level last fiscal and this current fiscal. And so it's really large. It's hard to personally manage. And so we have, as I mentioned, there was one staff member dedicated to mid-level personal engagement. We were able to, Summer was to add a second person. So we created portfolios for those individuals of, who are your most philanthropic, have the greatest affinities, have the greatest levels of wealth. That should be the focus. So if you have in this case, somebody on staff that can manage a portfolio of, say, like 400 people for personal outreach, cultivation, and stewardship. We were able to use our Giving DNA platform to blend all of NAMI's donor data, the data they directly have, with our third-party data telling us who was the most philanthropic and who had the greatest affinities to support causes like NAMI, along with who had the capacity to give at greater levels. That's where we identified upgrade candidates that couldn't necessarily be part of the portfolio. They sat just below it, but we wanted to make sure they were getting engaged through this interest-based personalization, because we wanted, that support to continue. If you write a check for $2,500 a year, you're not getting a name on a building. That's meaningful, right? And you should be appropriately stewarded and heard from. And also, I think what's important is timing based. So if you weren't in portfolio, if you weren't high net worth, but you're still giving, $1,000 annually, we wanted to make sure there was at least a personal touch point based on timing, whether it was when you made the gift, which is a very common strategy that you should be executing, but also those that are about to lapse. So all throughout the year, every month, we were letting you know, hey, these people are about to lapse. Every week, these are people that have just made a gift, along with those portfolios of mid-level donors.
So one of the things, oh, go ahead, Summer.
Sorry, I was just Ryan. One thing I was going to say about that staffing situation is we only had one person when we started this, right? We had one gift officer. She was working primarily with our $10,000 plus donors. And then we had one person who covered all of our mid-level from 1,000 up to 10,000. And it was a very large portfolio, more than one person could handle, more than 600, right? Like just way too much. Um, and which is a great problem to have. I understand some people, some organizations are like, gosh, we'd really love that. But it was too much work for one person. Nonetheless, this year, and to the point of building portfolios, we wanted the engagement to be meaningful because these are dollars and people who are giving to this mission that we care a lot about, and we wanted them to know that we care, that they care. So through this process, we want to be able to engage with people who want to engage with us, just like we would a major gift portfolio. Um, but it has to be at a number that works. All that is to say that because of this work that we've been able to do, very quickly, we've been able to justify adding another staff person. So we've been able to split that mid-level portfolio work. I see someone was asking what's mid-level for us, and David responded, and that one to just under 10,000. But we've been able to split that portfolio of work from 1,000 to 5,000 and 5,000 to just under 10. So that's how we've done it.
Yeah, I know, and that's a great point. You were able to show the effectiveness of this to then hire somebody else to work on it.
Yes.
Um, and I also should add, thinking about, well, what do you do with that portfolio? So for people curious about that, um, you really want to build a relationship, right? And so it's not
Yeah.
about soliciting personally. They're getting plenty of those solicitations in the mail and through email. You want to build a relationship. You want to give them a voice. And so when you're reaching out to these folks and just saying, hey, I want to thank you. I also want to, you know, understand what it is that why you support us. Do you have any questions? And then also be able to provide them with more information. And when you look at a portfolio, generally speaking, whatever it is you can manage, think about it through the lens of how many people can I reach out to on a quarterly basis or 3 times a year? We say that because you're probably not going to connect with them each time. But if you do have a couple of good conversations with these individuals. They're going to feel heard and valued, and as they should be, appropriately stewarded. This is a lot of money they're supporting you with every year, and also keep them in touch with what you're doing. So that's just a little bit more on like what are we actually doing with these donors in portfolio.
And then, kind of building on what Summer was saying, I think one of the biggest things for me is how to build this program, leveraging what is already in place and creating a strong strategy for leveraging mass marketing efforts, and then layering on everything that Ryan is talking about. So when we thought about what the launch of this would look like, we looked at, the time of the year, what was going on in the mail program, what was happening digitally, where we could plug in, play, piggyback on, create versioning for, to create this meaningful experience with them without kind of reinventing the wheel, right? And so that, on the next slide, you'll see here's an example of one of the packages that we put out there. The first iteration of this was essentially an invitation or knighting people into the new Compassion Collective. And that was a version of this package that came from one of their peers, Dr. Potter, who was an existing Leadership Alliance supporter. And so it felt appropriate for him to kind of share this shift in the program, and are excited to participate and be a part of that. And then ongoing every month subsequently, for those new donors that either upgrade into or join the Compassion Collective, they will receive this new donor package, which has a letter from NAMI welcoming them in. It's got sort of a little bit of higher end touch in terms of the envelope, with a handwritten font for their address, but it's got some impact information, and then it's got a gift of 3 postcards which are connected to NAMI's mission, and provides a nice sort of touch point and welcome. And we run that every month, and scooping up everybody in the last 30 days that joins. And then on the next slide, in after we launched, we then shared a dedicated mid-level appeal, again, building on or leveraging what we already had going on for our general level donors around this time frame, and developing a package just for Compassion Collective on cream stock, a little bit of different treatments for the envelope and for the reply slip. And this was an official ask to give a gift, to either join Compassion Collective or support NAMI. That was sort of the first appeal that came after the approach that we took to welcome people and bring them into the organization. Go ahead.
I just want to point out, because I'm looking at this postcard, and I think it's important to call out, your donors want to give at this level. They want to be part of you don't call it a mid-level to them, but this Compassion Collective, in this case, it's not about the benefits in many cases, about the results and the impact. So While yes, there's some great benefits about insider access, in the top right of this slide here, you can see the impact, right? People are giving to you because they care about the mission. They want to see the mission succeed. Including that is really, I think, a powerful point, particularly when you're looking to get people to renew or people to upgrade into a mid-level.
And we had a great question in the chat that I want to call out, which I think is an important one around, how do people join? And that's where the synergy with our mass market program really comes into play. So in all of our appeals, we do have a segment where we are including an upgrade opportunity for donors to be able to join Compassion Collective. So we're, asking them to join, and then we also, if they lapse in their giving, we're giving them an opportunity to come back as well and renew their commitment to Compassion Collective. But it's a cumulative giving program. So when they hit $1,000 of cumulative giving, that triggers them to receive that new donor welcome package and join the Compassion Collective.
And I was putting in the chat too that the question was, so people come in, people leave, and that's where that our gift officers come in and work really hard to have built those relationships, have sent impact information, and to Ryan's point earlier, talking about that pre-lapse conversation. So it's part of the strategy that we have in building community, making sure that donors at mid-level understand how important their gift is, the impact it's having on the organization, both individually and collectively, and that their gift really matters to us, right? So the gift officers are really, really important at particularly at that time, but always leading up to it, so that because our goal is always to retain those donors and those relationships.
And then I'll add to that, Summer, by saying when with their work, their individual outreach and engagement always looks at what is happening at the mass level as a baseline. And then we work with those gift officers to identify opportunities that layer on top of that. So we're not creating work for those gift officers. They're able to rely on that baseline stewardship and engagement to free up more of their time to do more meaningful outreach or more one-on-one outreach, which I think is so key to the success of the program. And then Ryan, is this you? Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, no, this is you.
Oh, it is. Thanks. So we've kind of been talking about this already, right? Like personalizing and segmenting communications at scale. It is leveraging the mass market opportunities. We talked about the voice broadcast. That's a one-to-many touch that feels like a one-to-one touch, right? So it's a live voice, it's a personal experience for that donor, but we're leveraging the mechanics of the mass marketing to be able to deliver that message. Customizing their letters and communications and everything that we do. So wherever possible, we're always creating copy versions where we're referencing them as part of Compassion Collective as a vital and important piece of the mission. And so that is something that we are very aware of and cognizant as we plan every single touch, whether that's an appeal, whether it's stewardship, digital communications, landing pages, like everything for them is very curated and customized with Compassion Collective to make it really feel cohesive for them.
Yeah, and I would add the how do you get donor interest and affinities? And so in our case, the mid-level officers were gathering that information, and over a course of time, you can recognize like distinct groups. And so that was allowing us to send out those packages that were more interest focused. One thing I didn't work with NAMI on, but I'm working with two other clients in their mid-level is, and you all can do is annual surveys, and not those really like rote surveys like what's your name, your email address, etc., but more of those similar relationship building surveys like what are your interests? Why did you first support us? What's important to you? Because we can't reach everybody. Like at the end of the day, it's just hard to get a personal touch point just due to the number of people and just the ability to contact. So sending out that survey is important too, and a great way to hear from your donors. And those more personal, thoughtful questions allow them to feel heard too.
And we've got a really important question in the chat, Ryan, about a sort of major donor program, 10,000 plus. And I just want to clarify that Compassion Collective is indicative or inclusive of the 10,000 plus crowd as well. So we were intentional in that we wanted to have it be really a comprehensive sort of community of donors, but at 10,000, and Summer can speak to this, things drastically change for them in terms of their experience, right? Where they don't get any regular communications on a monthly basis. They're not included in the direct mail program. They may be occasionally, but don't have an ask included. But Summer, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about what happens once they hit that level.
I think the one-to-one communication with a gift officer uh, just changes kind of exponentially, if you will, right? Like as you said, David, they're taken out of that direct response. At least the ask of the direct response, the communication through direct response, maybe wanted to make sure you saw this story that we're sharing, wanted to make sure, right? So the communication in and of itself is just very, very different. And the ask, it comes based on relationship and timing driven by the donor, instead of through a different channel. But they're still part of the Compassion Collective, and we still communicate about that through the look and feel of that community that's making a difference through that larger giving. So yeah, there was another question about how that intersects with monthly giving. And I know we'll be running short on time here soon, but just to let you all know that AGP also helped us with that. We did that's a whole nother webinar.
That's a whole other webinar.
Yeah, because AGP really helped us. We were just called sustainers, but we went through a whole very similar process about changing our monthly giving. And this may be different at other organizations, but for us, when we are communicating, we communicate with our Table of Hope people as monthly donors, even if they arise to a level of giving $1,000 a year, then they will feed into our compassion collective that way. But first and foremost, we have found that people consider themselves monthly donors before they consider themselves like $1,000 donors, right?
Yeah.
So it's that may be different at your organization, but at ours, that's kind of how they identify first. So.
Okay. And Ryan, is this me too? I forgot.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's right. So, talking about the full donor, life cycle, I think that that's another critically important piece to support the growth at mid-level. And I mentioned this briefly a couple of minutes ago, but if somebody lapses out of the Compassion Collective, we have a time period within our appeals where we talk to them to say, we want you to come back. We want you to reactivate, if you will, as a Compassion Collective donor. But that I think once that happens, if they slip down or they're unable to give at that level anymore, that's totally fine, and then they just flow into our appeals with at whatever level they happen to give to at that moment if they're not able to make that commitment. So it feels very seamless and not overly, I don't know, pressurized, right, for them to come back. They just kind of can fall back into the general level appeal program and get an ask based on their, giving of whatever happens to be at that level below Compassion Collective. But I think, having this strong mid-level program in place really strengthens multi-year donor relationships overall, and helps to create real value for NAMI and for the program. Key multi-year, those 3+ year givers, regardless of whether they're at Compassion Collective or even just at the general level, are so much more valuable than one-time or two-time or 2-year givers. So their exponential growth and value to the organization is so much stronger. And so a lot of these strategies around engaging these donors and keeping them engaged, even if they don't stay at the Compassion Collective level, I think is going to, have all boats rise through the whole program.
All right, so we get about 12 minutes or so left. Let's talk about the results. What did this all lead to? So you can go to the next slide there. And well, the strategy, what it's done is led to sustained attention from their mid-level donors. And so their mid-level donors have been more engaged. They're not plateauing, which I had mentioned earlier. You can often see when mid-level donors aren't giving that more intentional, elevated donor experience. And that's just resulting in stronger performance. High levels of retention. I believe NAMI's around like 70% for their mid-level. We're identifying upgrades on a consistent basis. And the life cycle management, recognizing where their donors are within their relationship within NAMI and not treating everybody the same. It's creating that higher lifetime value. People are feeling heard. They're being given information about what they care about. And so that's encouraging people to consistently give and upgrade their support. And so, the whole strategy in execution, it's really led to durable growth, like hiring more staff, right, to dedicate towards mid-level donor engagement. It's led to significant growth in the program itself, which we can just get right to on the next slide. And so for 2025, when we began executing this program with Summer and her team, what we found was compared to 2024, revenue grew by almost 40%. Can you just go back? Yep. 40%. The number of active donors went up by 42%. That is dramatic. And about a quarter of donors upgraded their giving. So we had more active donors, donors upgrading, and that's all leading to that significant revenue growth. And at the end of the day, that's great for NAMI and their mission, but also the donors and their experience and their how they feel about NAMI, how they feel appreciated also grew. So a little bit of that qualitative benefit as well. And so key takeaways. That's for
Yeah.
you in summer.
Yeah. So um, I, I think the best way to describe the mid-level program is a stabilizer, right? It's that middle step. It's so important in that ladder to have a really strong mid-level program. They are your most loyal donors. A lot of them still behave or function like a general level donor, even though they're giving more than $1,000. But some of them step up and upgrade and strengthen their commitment to the organization. So it really is like a core pipeline, not just to major giving, but to long-term program health and value in general. And so I think that that's an important distinction that helps to really foster a strong sense of community. It helps to, major gift qualify, but it has many, many benefits to NAMI and its program beyond just, trying to upgrade people to major gifts. So I think that's my biggest point that I wanted to make is that, I would be thrilled, to have a robust mid-level program where people are giving through mass market channels and, layering on the individual touches to grow and strengthen their commitment to NAMI is another key piece of it. Summer, anything you would add?
No, sorry, I'm writing back Tori and her in the chat, but I think for for me, the key lesson and the key takeaway is to stay true to the organization, right? As you're building out this program, stay true to who your organization is, stay connected to your donors in the best way possible as much as you can. Because to your point, that intentional stewardship, that's the piece. And I think this at every level of giving, but if you put your donors first, then the money will follow, right? So just making sure that whatever program you're building out or changing or whatever, that if you are donor centered first, then and you're authentic in that relationship and communication with your donors, then the fundraising will come. So.
All right. So how do we get started? We got a couple minutes here, guys, and I always like to end webinars with some key points that you feel like, hey, I like this. I want to do some of it. So how do you turn your mid-level into a growth engine? First is assess, right? We talked about some really great strategies that we all took part with Summer and team, and we continue to do. You may be in a different place at this point in time. So really assess the staff capacity. You want to know what you're able to do on a consistent level. Also, recognize what is your mid-level performance now, because you want to be able to tell if these elevated efforts are making a difference, right? If they're worth it. And then determine, what tools and data you have or may need based on what you want to accomplish. And then really taking the action. It's all about sticking to a consistent engagement plan. And so you may not have a mid-level relationship manager on staff. You may want to maybe only ask your donor relations manager, hey, can you dedicate an hour a week to stewarding our top donors in mid-level, or reaching out weekly and calling everybody that makes a mid-level size gift. And then really blending that one-to-one and one-to-many experience through multiple channels, because one-to-one relationship building, it really helps to move the needle. And so as many people as you can personally engage with, but we recognize you can't do that for everybody. It's just nearly impossible. So, creating one-to-many strategies that we had talked about. Also, your direct response is what got mid-level here, so you want to keep them with that, but incorporating some of that impact business related information that you typically share with your major donors, mid-level donors really would crave that as well. And so ultimately what the results we typically see are your mid-level, when you're hitting at a high rate, you're going to be retaining 70% year over year. So take a look at where you're retaining now to see how close you are, or maybe you're beyond it. And also, as I'd mentioned before, if you don't know what your mid-level is, I've seen a few questions about giving ranges. Everybody's is different. Look at your direct response individual donor program and just take a look at who's the top 5% of donors. Is that donors giving around $500 a year or more that make up half of the revenue we raise in direct response? Is it near 750? And then based on that, it doesn't have to be exactly that number, but rounding that number out, that's where your mid-level starts, and it goes up to right below major giving. And so also the results are just going to lead, they're going to lead to upgrades, right? You're going to upgrade and retain these donors at a high level. And what David had mentioned, this isn't just about major giving. You're probably going to see a lift of like 5% more major gift prospects or new major gift donors every year if you're running a program like this. But if you do that year over year, that's a really good group of major donors to bring on the file. And this type of program is being proactive about major gift identification, not reactive. So it's helping that department as well. So yeah, there's a lot of really great results that come out of this. And also your donors deserve it, and they'll be happy about it too. And so, oh, there you go, Megan.
Thanks, everyone. We just have a few minutes left, so I just want to cruise through this. We will be sharing our guide to mid-level in the follow-up email along with the recording after this. And I also just wanted to mention we have a mid-level accelerator year-end program, which is a 3 to 4 month dedicated engagement designed to help nonprofits identify untapped donor potential and strengthen the donor relationships to achieve those results before year-end. There's 2 levels of support: the accelerator that offers coaching and guidance, and our concierge program that offers hands-on execution. If you're interested in getting started and learning how you can accelerate your mid-level program, scan the QR code or follow up on our email after today's presentation, and we'll be sure to share. David, Ryan, Summer, you guys did a great job answering everyone's questions as you were presenting. I think we've tackled all of them. But if there's any follow-up questions, like I said, feel free to respond to the email that we send after the presentation today, and we'll be sure to answer your questions. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Summer.
Thanks, everyone.
I know.